Welcome back to Boilers and Beyond. I'm Jordan Jones. 31 games have come and gone. The regular season has come to an end, and postseason play begins this week. Purdue closed the regular season on a bit of a sour note, but it enters postseason play with plenty of opportunity ahead of it. I'll talk about the loss at Illinois a little bit, mostly though, looking at the big picture from the first 31 games, previewing the Big Ten tournament, much more, answering some of your questions, talking some NCAA tournament seeding. There's a lot to get here, guys. It's March. It is the fateful month of the year that will determine how this season is remembered. Let's get into it. If you don't already, be sure to follow the show on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. There's always a lot to talk about. Come join the conversation. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and feel free to send in questions. Do that on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond, or you can email the show, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. Regular season has come to a close. Purdue is 21-10 overall. It finishes Big Ten play 13-7. And, that loss to Illinois was a sour note to close it on. It was one that did not surprise me all that much. I thought it was a tough matchup for Purdue going in. And really, Purdue handled it a little better than I thought. Illinois' offensive rebounding prowess really worried me. Purdue only allowed 5 offensive rebounds, 6 or 8 second chance points. That was solid. Now, at the end of the game, there weren't a lot of offensive rebounds for Illinois to get because it was making a lot of shots. And some of the vulnerabilities that Purdue has of allowing guys to get to the rim and getting beat off the dribble a little bit were exposed. But, Illinois just made more plays than Purdue down the stretch. And it comes down to Purdue's thin margin for error. And you're probably tired of hearing me say that by now, but it's just the reality for this year's team. Purdue played pretty well in that game. There were defensive struggles. Illinois is a tough team to guard, though. Illinois shot better from 3 than it normally does. Part of that is Illinois getting some good looks. Part of that is Illinois making some shots. Trey White was really good. He made 3 threes really early on. Yakichonis hit a tough shot at the end. It's just part of it. But a few possessions really hurt Purdue in this. Trey Kaufman-Renn was out of the game for a 2.5-minute stretch maybe in the second half. I don't remember how long it was. But Purdue tried to steal a few extra possessions with him on the bench after the under-12 timeout. He came out before it, and Purdue tried to steal an extra few possessions. Purdue had some turnovers in there. Raleigh Burgess put in a pretty tough spot. I don't know that he's ready for those type of minutes right now, but Purdue doesn't really have other options if it wants to get Trey Kaufman-Renn an extra blow. And that took the game from a 10-point Illinois lead, or a 10-point Purdue lead, to a 3-point Purdue lead. That's a big 7 points. That's the difference there. Because after Yakichonis hit that 3, that put Illinois up 3. It was an 8-point final, but the game was closer than that. It's those thin margins for error. It's Purdue not shooting particularly well. It was, 5 of 18 from 3, which it felt like Purdue was better. But I guess some of that, too, was Braden Smith missing some threes at the end when Purdue had to try to make something happen on offense quickly, too. It is what it is. It's a tough matchup for Purdue. It's a tough matchup in general. It's why when you look at Illinois, a team that finished 7th in the Big Ten, they're still top 20 at KenPom. They're efficient on offense. They're solid defensively. It's a good team. They play fast. They do a lot of really good things. I think some of their struggles were guys being sick. That was a part of their season. Guys being injured. Yakichonis getting hurt. Ivisic getting sick. It's been an up and down year there, but that's a team that I don't think you really want to run into here in the Big Ten tournament or NCAA tournament. It is what it is, right? It's a loss where Purdue very easily could have won the game. A loss where Purdue led for the majority of the game. Kind of a familiar tune in some of these losses. Purdue led for the majority of the game at Michigan. Purdue led for the majority against Wisconsin, maybe. It led for the whole first half there. It's kind of been a thing for Purdue here recently, but it all comes back to having a pretty thin margin for error for this group. And it kind of gets into the bigger picture here of how do you evaluate Purdue's regular season results? As I said, Purdue's 21-10. Purdue finished tied for fourth in Big Ten play, 13-7. It's the 6th seed because it lost some tiebreakers, but Purdue finished tied for fourth there. All in all, if you ask me, back in October, put a gun to my head, told me Purdue goes 21-10, 13-7 in Big Ten play, I would have told you that probably sounded about right. You know, with preseason expectations, they are what they are. Some things went better than expected. Some things went worse than expected. But finishing in that range, I certainly didn't see Michigan State going 17-3. I would have thought 13-7 would have probably had you in the Big Ten title mix. And up until the last 3 weeks, Purdue was in the thick of it. 4 or 5 seed in the NCAA tournament looking at, probably about right off of what I would have thought at the start of the season. And at times, Purdue looked like it might do better than that. At times, it looked like Purdue may fall short of that. But it's kind of water finding its level, and Purdue performing right around where you would have thought. Of course, some things went better than expected. I expected Braden Smith to have a big year, a no doubt first-team All-American, probably the third best player in the country. I don't know about that. He had a phenomenal year. I'm recording this Monday night. I think Big Ten awards come out tomorrow. I would expect Braden Smith wins Big Ten Player of the Year, and I'll give you how I would cast a ballot if I had one later in the episode here. He was magnificent for you. Trey Kaufman-Renn, marvelous. He, again, someone who we all knew was going to take a really big step up without Zach Edey, but I don't know that I saw him scoring 20 a game in Big Ten play. Being a no-doubt first-team All-Big Ten guy, being someone who's in the mix for those like third-team All-American honors. Awesome season from him. And Fletcher Lawyer gave you everything you could have asked for. He scored in double figures in 26 of the 31 games, and a couple of those were like Marshall, where it didn't matter because Purdue won by 30. He was awesome for you. Shot 47% from three. He had a great year. He really did. He had a really good year. And you look at those two freshman guards who are really coming on strong right now. CJ Cox and Jakari Harris are playing good basketball for you. They hit some big shots against Illinois. There was a back-to-back stretch maybe where they hit threes on consecutive possessions. Harris had a coast-to-coast play in that game that was really nice. He's comfortable handling the ball in those situations. There's a ton to like about what you saw from them this year that I think when you look big picture, projecting forward, boy, there's excitement there. Those two could be a really nice duo because I think they can complement each other pretty well in the backcourt. That they can do some different things, and they've showed enough defensively to where I think you can project improvement out there. Those two could be really good. On the flip side, though, some things haven't gone how you've hoped. Obviously, the defense is a real challenge for this team, and it stems from Purdue not having much in the name of rim protection. That comes from Daniel Jacobson getting hurt right away. The first minute of the second game of the season, he breaks his leg and done for the year. And it comes from Will Berg not being a guy who can be in your rotation. I think any preseason projection, any preseason outlook would have had one of those guys as a player for you. Jacobson probably the more likely one. There was some natural skepticism of Will Berg that, you know, the complete unknown factor of him, because it's not like there was a prep, highlight or a prep resume to base off of the way there was for Jacobson. Having both those guys out, though, that's a big blow. That's a really big blow because Caleb First has given you great minutes this year. He's given you great effort. He's given you everything you could ask for a senior who has had almost an unexpected career, but he's finishing really strong. He's not a rim protector, though. Raleigh Burgess, I think, can be a really good player at Purdue. There are things about his game that you like. He can knock down some shots. He doesn't look totally uncomfortable out there, but he's being asked to do an awful lot right now. He's made some okay plays defensively, but he's a guy who missed a lot of time in high school, and you're seeing that now. You're seeing him go through some real struggles and go through a lot of being thrown into the fire as a freshman in the Big Ten. Big ask, really big ask. Someone who was in the redshirt conversation until the day the season started. Of course, there was no option there once Daniel Jacobson got hurt. The interior defensively has been Purdue's real downfall, and Purdue can't make up for that with just elite perimeter defense. It doesn't have that either. It's a system-based defense, but when you don't have anyone at the rim, you have to be really impeccable at your system of switching and helping and then getting back to make it work. And then when you do that, you're opening yourself for rebounding problems when you're moving around as much as Purdue has to. All of that has come full circle. Miles Colvin goes 37, 31, 63 for splits on the year. That's below where you'd have hoped. I mean, 31% from three. He's had some struggles there. He and Camden Heide are just limited on offense as to what they can provide. They are catch and shoot guys, and they are lob guys. That's what they are at this point in their career. Can they develop into more than that? Time will tell. But right now, that's all they are, and neither of them have had the shooting year you would have hoped. I think Heide finished at 33% from outside. Not great. So when you kind of add it all up here and look at just what has happened, I think when you look at the classic bell curve of outcomes, Purdue's probably pretty close to the middle there. Maybe on the lesser side, maybe, but when Daniel Jacobson got hurt, that was a pretty big blow to this team. And I don't know that we realized it at the time, but that's a lot to overcome. Again, thin margin for error for this group. But to also be in a spot where you're having conversations about whether the season was a little underwhelming, man, went 21-10. If you can win a game or two this week, you probably lock up a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's a pretty good spot to be when you're having those conversations. It's a testament to what Purdue has built. It really is, because Purdue's going into the Big Ten tournament without a double bye for just the second time in 11 years. Purdue had done that all but 1 year since the Big Ten tournament went to this format in 2015, I believe. 2015 was the first year for that. 2020 being the year Purdue didn't have a double bye. It was supposed to play the afternoon the world shut down. So, yeah, there's that. You would have loved to get a double bye. Michigan didn't do you any favors by not being ultra competitive at home against Maryland, but Purdue controlled its own destiny there going into Friday night, and it almost got it. I think when you look at the Big Ten tournament, kind of pivoting here, this is a time where I think you want to see Purdue do some things. You want to see Purdue make a run, and make a run at winning this thing. It's there for Purdue. You didn't win the regular season title. I don't think this team can get to a Final Four. You might as well win something. And easier said than done, no doubt. But it gives you a chance to win something. It gives you a chance to build some momentum. Losing 5 of 7 was unexpected. Not entirely shocking, I guess, just when you look at who Purdue played. It's been a difficult schedule at the end. There's nothing more to that than TV getting the schedule that TV wants. So everyone finished with a tough schedule. You look at what Michigan State finished with, and it was a gauntlet, and they won their last 7 games. That's remarkably impressive, because outside of Iowa, everyone else in that's top 30 in KenPom, with 4 of those in the teens. That's a difficult schedule, and they nailed it. But these are difficult schedules for everyone at the end. That's how it's going to be. I think in the bracket, when you look at this thing, Purdue got a pretty good draw. You look at being the 6th seed, I think it's better for Purdue than if Purdue would have had the 5 seed, really. It's hard to ask for a whole lot more than what Purdue has here. Purdue gets Rutgers or USC on Thursday. This kind of tests my theory about these West Coast schools, and it's something I'm going to be paying attention to. They're flying to Indianapolis for this thing, and with the exception of USC, Oregon and UCLA are going to be flying somewhere else next week to play in the NCAA tournament. They've flown out this way a lot already, and I do think there's something to the travel nature of all of this. USC did not close particularly strong. It lost, 6 of 7 to close the season. It just got throttled by UCLA on Saturday night. I don't know. Purdue didn't see Desmond Claude the first time, so when you look at him and the Wesley Yates kid, that gives you some couple of guys who can do some things off the dribble. We know what Rutgers is. Purdue has had some success against Rutgers this year, to put it mildly. You like your chances in either of those. It should be a pretty pro-Purdue crowd there. Illinois will certainly have fans there rooting against Purdue, but there should be a good amount of black and gold in that building. And then if you can win that, get out of your first game, you get Michigan, a team that has really cratered to end the season. Michigan kind of fought out of its weight class this year and did really well, all things considered. That team was horrible last year, and it's all new. It has been a really good year for Dusty May in year one, but the ending has been rough. Since that Purdue game that Purdue led for 35 minutes of, you beat Ohio State by 3, you lose comfortably to Michigan State twice, you barely beat Nebraska and Rutgers. You need a buzzer beater to beat Rutgers at home, blown out by Illinois at home, lose comfortably to Maryland at home. Really rough stretch to close the year for Michigan. That would be a matchup of Purdue and Michigan where both teams are really hoping to recapture some momentum. And then you'd get Maryland, who you haven't seen since early December. They're good. They're very good. You could also see Illinois there, too. Illinois could beat Maryland. But if you're getting to Saturday of the Big Ten tournament, you're going to have to play someone good. And both of those teams are teams Purdue can beat. Purdue beat one of them already. Purdue could have beat the other. It's there for the taking. This is an opportunity for Purdue to really build some momentum. Feel good about yourself going into the tournament. Purdue has maintained positivity throughout all of this, but it would like to go into the NCAA tournament on a high note. This team has been too good this year to finish really poorly and go into the NCAA tournament feeling like there are a lot of questions. Now, with these conference tournaments, you can make the argument more rest versus more games, momentum versus rest. I don't know that there's a cut and dry answer to that. I personally am of the belief here, Purdue did not have the regular season performance in the Big Ten it wanted. You want to put something together nice here. There certainly is something to be said about getting more rest, but I think that momentum factor outweighs a rest factor here for Purdue. NCAA tournament seeding is on the line this week. Purdue is a 4 in almost every bracket out there. You pull up Bracket Matrix, and the consensus overall is that Purdue's a 4. I've seen them on the 3 line in a couple. I've seen them on a 5 line in a couple. If you lose your first game, I think you're going to be a 5. I don't know that a 6 would be out of the question because that would be a pretty bad loss. If you can win that, and especially if you can beat Michigan, you're probably solidified as a 4. And if you go on a run, maybe you can play your way onto the 3 line. I don't know. In a perfect world, you'd love to get that Midwest region, but if you're a 4 or 5, you'd have to win a really tough game in the second round. You're not getting a slouch in the first round. It'd be tough to get there, and when you get there, you'd probably run into a 1 seed, and I don't know that you really want that. But nonetheless, there's a lot to play for here. This is a Big Ten tournament where a lot of these teams are projected to be seated around one another. I'm pulling up Bracket Matrix here right now, and Wisconsin, Maryland, and Purdue are all on the 4 line in Bracket Matrix right now. Michigan's a 5. There's a lot to play for here in terms of seeding. So, if you can kind of nudge yourself above Wisconsin and Maryland there, that'd be awesome. If you can beat one or both of them head-to-head, depending how things play out, you'd love that. But ultimately, Purdue kind of controls its destiny there because the 4 line feels like something Purdue can, at bare minimum, lock into place this week. I want to talk a little bit about the all-conference awards that I would have if I was a voter. I am not a voter. That is for like legitimate journalists. Anyways, look, I'd go Braden Smith, John Tonji, Trey Kaufman-Renn, Danny Wolf, and Derek Queen, I think. Once you get outside those first three, I think Smith, Tonji, and Kaufman-Renn have to be on there. They've been that good. I know there's probably going to be some Twitter pushback to a team that tied for fourth getting 2 players, but I don't know what to tell you. Those guys have been awesome this year. Michigan State doesn't have a first-team guy. You can make an argument for Wolf or Vlad Golden to be in that mix. Danny Wolf's just fun, man. He's a really fun player to watch. Derek Queen is going to win Freshman of the Year. I don't know that there's a real argument for anyone else. Yakichonis getting hurt things. The Rutgers guys, they've been really good, but the team is just so bad that I don't know that you can do that. How do you evaluate the guys on bad teams? Bryce Williams was awesome for Nebraska this year. Nebraska's also not playing in the Big Ten tournament. Dawson Garcia has been fantastic. Minnesota's had a better year than anyone could have imagined, but they're also playing on Wednesday. Same deal with Nick Martinelli. Really good player, really good year, playing on Wednesday. So it's tricky here. 18 teams makes this really hard. I mean, it's almost insane to try to pick 5 guys out of 18 teams. That's my best go at it. There are some teams that are really balanced, like Illinois is pretty balanced. They don't have one guy who racks up the points, racks up the stats. Michigan State's the epitome of that. Outside of Queen, Maryland isn't there. So that's kind of where I fall. I think Izzo is by far your coach of the year. That has been a remarkable year for them. 17-3 is impressive in any season. When you consider the makeover that Michigan State got this year, moving on from the Tyson Walker, A.J. Hoggard era, really getting back to what's made Michigan State great in the past, running, defending, it's been impressive this year. To close the way they did was very impressive. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that, depending how the SEC tournament shakes out, if Michigan State wins the Big Ten, they could be on the 1 line on Selection Sunday. They could be that last 1 seed. I don't know that there's an argument for anyone else. Greg Gard's been awesome. Really impressive job he's done. Ditto to Danny Wolf, Dusty May. Kevin Willard's had a really good year, but I think Izzo's your clear-cut coach of the year. You're starting to see some All-American honors come out. I don't know that I've seen Trey Kaufman-Renn on a third team anywhere, but I think he's more than deserving of being in that conversation. I don't know that I've seen anyone not have Braden Smith as a first-team All-American. That's cut and dry. He's the best true guard in the country. This episode is brought to you by me. Yes, me. When I'm not watching sports, or more accurately, talking about them, I'm talking insurance with the people of Indiana. As an agent with Indiana Farm Bureau Insurance, I want to help you protect what you've worked hard to achieve. From home and auto to life and business insurance, I'm here to help you. Give me a call at 317-846-5861 or email me, jordan.jones@infarmbureau.com. Let's protect you from life's everyday risks. Closing it out here with the Q&A before some final thoughts. This was a fascinating one from a good buddy and longtime listener. A hypothetical situation where before the season, you can pick winning the Big Ten tournament or you can turn a loss into a win in conference play. And he says for a team like Northwestern, you'd always want to win the Big Ten tournament since you're never in regular season contention. But for a program like Purdue that expects to be in the regular season contention every year, what's your call? I would say you'd rather win the Big Ten tournament. Again, it's winning something. And if you can guarantee that you're putting a banner in your rafters for that, I think you'd like that. That's a very appealing thing. Of course, the Big Ten regular season title carries a lot more weight than the Big Ten tournament title. There are a few leagues where the tournament's a really big deal. Of course, any non-power conference where you might be a one-bid league, that's a cut and dry answer. But, like the Big East has a really storied history of that tournament at the Garden. The ACC has a pretty strong history of that tournament being a big deal. The Big Ten didn't start this thing till 1998. The coaches didn't want it to be a thing, and then TV ultimately made that decision for the Big Ten. But you'd have to either finish one game back or finish in a shared title for the other side to be the right play, and you never know what's going to shake out. I mean, this year, nobody saw someone running away with the Big Ten by 3 games, and no one at all saw it being Michigan State. You just never know what things are going to shake out like. You never know what's going to happen to you. I think the Big Ten tournament is the play almost every single time there, especially this year, when you look at where Purdue finished, you'd get a double bye. You'd get the 4 seed, but, man, I mean, you look at the bracket, I think I might almost rather have the 6 seed than the 4 seed. You get the double bye, and you want that, but yeah, I think you're happy with where you're at if you're Purdue as a Big Ten tournament situation. What are the struggles/tendencies that Purdue needs to correct in the Big Ten tournament that could be exploited in the Big Dance? To me, it's all about the defense, and correcting that is a really big ask. You're not going to just magically wake up one day and be some great defensive team. That's not on the table for Purdue, but can you be a little bit better? Yeah. You think about it. You get like a 65-70 possession game, probably more 65 with the way Purdue plays on offense. A couple more stops are a big deal. If you can get an extra 4 to 6 points in a game from a few more stops, a few more swings, you'd love that. That's a big deal. The limitations are what they are, though. And there are certain matchups that are going to be really tricky for Purdue in the NCAA tournament if it gets them. We can sit here all day and talk about tough matchups, but we don't have a bracket, and then outside of your first round game, you don't know how things are going to unfold. The defense is there, though, and I think, too, Purdue's got to limit turnovers. That's not been a huge problem lately, but it's always there. Purdue can't overcome those. Purdue doesn't have the defense to overcome those. When you turn it over, and especially if you're giving up pick sixes, you're giving up runouts, Purdue, those are 2 points to the other team. Purdue's really got to maximize every possession on offense because it is a situation where Purdue almost feels like it has to, if not score, it has to get a good look every time down the floor. You can't take shots you're not happy with, given Purdue's limitations there. So just being as crisp as possible on offense. What role players do you see having an important role in the tournament season? Really, it's everyone here. You need your best players to be great. I mean, this time of year, for every situation where you get a breakout guy like Spike Albrecht going nuts in the national championship game, or Dante DiVincenzo scoring 30 in the championship game after not being one of Villanova's go-to guys. It's your stars, man. This is the time of year where stars are cemented into legacy. It's Carson Edwards having 40 in 2 separate games and making, is it still the NCAA tournament record for threes in a tournament? It is Glenn Robinson putting up 40 on the Kansas team in 94. It's Zach Edey putting up 40 against Tennessee. And I know I'm probably making it sound like you have to score 40 points, which you don't, but I think you get where I'm going here. It's about what your stars do, but you can't get nothing out of your role players. Can you get a couple threes a game out of Cox and Harris? Can they force some steals? Can they make a drive to the bucket? Cox has done that sometimes. Can you get Miles Colvin and Camden Heide to give you some threes? Been a rough year there, but basketball's a fickle sport. Can they get hot? Can they play strong defense for you and just fight as hard as they can out there? your Caleb First, Raleigh Burgess, just give you as good of minutes as possible. Everyone matters here. Purdue only plays 9 guys, and Burgess really doesn't play all that much. So if you're looking at an 8-team effort, especially in the NCAA tournament where there's a second timeout in there because there's an extra media timeout in the first half in the NCAA tournament, you're probably not taking Trey Kaufman-Renn out much, if at all. And if he gets in foul trouble, say a prayer. What are your thoughts on Mike Woodson saying he might have decided to step away too soon after winning 5 of 7 to close the season, putting them in a position to make the tournament? And this is one of my IU buddies adding the context that IU missed 5 straight tourneys and now he'll have gone to 3 of 4. I mean, I don't know that Mike Woodson is a guy who at IU you're projecting is going to take them back to where they want to be. And there is a very real sense of if your goals as a program aren't going to be met by your coach, then it's time to move on. Like this week, I respect the hell out of what NC State just did, moving on from Kevin Keats. And that sounds very inhumane, but the guy was going to get fired last year before he went on a miracle run. The ability to see that as what it was and make a move a year later when they missed the ACC tournament, I respect that. That's good administration right there. For IU, it's made a couple NCAA tournaments here. It's made 3 of 4. One of those was a play-in game, last 4 in, where they went to Dayton. This year might take them to Dayton as well. I don't know that that's the standard Indiana's trying to reach. It, of course, is kind of a sham that he's just deciding to retire solely on his own free will. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's not 100% his decision. I know he's kind of playing it like it is. I don't believe that's the case. I don't think it's a huge coincidence, though, that Indiana's starting to play better down the stretch. That is a team that was really thrown together out of the portal. You have a lot of new faces. You have a lot of new pieces. You're playing a very different way with Umar Ballo than you did Kalel Ware. It's taken Indiana a while to come together, but it's played good basketball here down the stretch. That's just part of building out of the portal. It is. And sometimes it clicks early. You look at Michigan. They clicked early. Very portal-heavy team. But, yeah, for Indiana, it doesn't shock me that they're playing better now. And that's a big one for them on Thursday against Oregon in the opener. They win that. They're absolutely in the field, I think. Look, this is one of the most fun weeks of the year. Big Ten Tournament Week is a blast. Conference Tournament Week is a blast. The pure euphoria you see. I was watching the Southern Conference championship game before recording this. It's a special week. It's different when you're a power conference fan and for Purdue fans here where they know they're going to be in the tournament, but it's nonstop basketball all day, and that's awesome. There's not much better than that. Enjoy it. We'll see what Purdue does here. It's a really big week for Purdue. I think it is. Anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. I remember back in 2019, Purdue loses to Minnesota in the first round. And at that point, things didn't feel great. You didn't feel great about where Purdue was. And then it gets a miracle play away from the Final Four. Anything can happen in this month. It is, in one sense, lunacy that so much emphasis is put on what happens here over the next 3 weeks. But at the same time, it's part of college basketball and what makes it really unique. And being unique is a good thing. So that's all I've got here. We will be back probably next Monday night, posting Tuesday in your feeds, breaking down Purdue's NCAA tournament prospects, looking at what happened in the Big Ten tournament, and there's going to be no shortage of things to talk about. Send me some questions, guys. Do it on Twitter, @BoilersBeyond. Email them to me, boilersandbeyondpod@gmail.com. And when I talk to you next, there will be a bracket. Take care.